right. Now, if I was to ask you what is masculinity or what does it mean to be masculine, I think I would probably get quite a variety of different responses, depending on, people's age, social class, background, so on and so forth. And often when, people are talking about or writing about masculinity, they think of it as a set of traits that are kind of biological, that are ingrained within men, as opposed to something that is social and cultural, that's something that's context specific, something that is varied, that changes across space and time. So, for example, if we think through much of the 20th century, um, to be a good father was typically to be a breadwinner. It wasn't to, care for children. Um, that was left to the mother. Whereas now, people think it's much more masculine to be kind of a caring parent or caring father, and kind of expressing it's a demonstration of, being responsible, so on and so forth. Similarly, if we kind of go back to my theme on bodies quite a bit, to care about one's appearance, traditionally has been considered to be quite feminine and associated with women, whereas nowadays in the age of social media, it's very much more about muscularity, looking after yourself, increased, worrying about hairline, worrying about teeth, worrying about skin, so on and so forth. Going back to that kind of looks maxing kind of thing to make ourselves appear more masculine. Whereas, back in the day, to kind of have or in the 20th century again, to have a nonchalant attitude towards your appearance and not to care was deemed to be masculine. So that kind of gives you an idea of how it's changed. So I think, the point of this is to, rather than think of masculinity that's something fixed, that's something that's always been a certain way, is something that kind of changes along with society and cultures. And the fact that rather than consider, there's some theory, if we go into kind of academia, rather than, it used to be, particularly in psychology, that masculinity was or there was a single set of masculinity, whereas now it might be better to think of masculinities as plural. There's a theorist academic called Raywin Connell, who speaks of hegemonic masculinity, this idea that there's a culturally exalted and an ideal way to be a man, whereas there are other forms, particularly, if, for example, minority men, whether, due to their sexuality or so on and so forth, or disability, or whether their size, kind of subordinated and kind of considered not as masculine, but masculine nonetheless. So I think, it's quite important to change our perception or the way we talk about masculinity, what it means to be masculine, and kind of think, well, a little bit more deeply. So, yeah, just one to ponder on.